Is he going to do the walking when I introduce him? I'll have him ready. Sorry.
大家好，大家好啊！大家看这，这是哪里啊？这曼哈顿一个俱乐部啊。全是班农先生的粉丝啊！大家看没有 ？War Room 的。Hi, Wish. Good. 全是班农先生的粉丝啊，在这里来见班农先生啊！班农先生马上过来。在这里他要发布重磅的演讲啊，对这个这个班农先生要开始发力了啊，要发力。我们这个专门邀请过，这是一个私人聚会，总共只有40个人，这里面大家看看啊，一个私人聚会，所有来的都是这个班农先生的粉丝啊，绝对铁杆粉丝。共和党的这个，大家看这里啊，看没有？美国最古老的年轻共和党俱乐部，这是打的广告啊。今天因为班农先生要在这里发布非常重磅的演讲啊，重磅演讲。我要露个脸给大家看一下啊。大家好，大家好啊，大家好。青年共和党人，对，青年共和党。
All right, guys, welcome. Thank you all for being here. This is a great event for us. It's kind of unique. We've obviously all been locked up in our homes thanks to King Cuomo and this doofus de Blasio, but we're glad to be back in full action. You all remember our events before coronavirus, how great they were, how many people we got, our fantastic speakers. We're looking to continue that this year as much as we can. It's an election year, it's a pivotal year. We don't want to miss out on any opportunities. We put this together with the help of my great board of governors. We got this year, we got Alana, Zach with his beard, we got a few people, Christy, etc. We've been doing some great work and we're trying to continue to put on fantastic events for you. And this year, beyond this event, we have this week, we have a rooftop social at an undisclosed venue. It's great. It's in Midtown. I know many of you already signed up for it. So we're going to have
以后这样的聚会会很多啊，这样的。
Fantastic. Working with the campaign, getting out the vote, reaching out to new voters, and making sure that we can make this a big win for President Trump come November. And in addition to that, we have a deployment coming up this Saturday. We got Peter Junta from the Staten Island Young Republicans. Give him a round of applause here. We love Staten Island. So we're going to be out there canvassing for Trump, all the local candidates. It's our first deployment this year. Many of you came last year. We had a fantastic deployment last year. Off year, we helped flip a seat that hadn't been flipped in about a generation. We're looking to do that again for many other seats. So that'll be good. We have some virtual phone banking as well with different congressional campaigns working with Trump Victory here in New York State. We got one this Sunday for Garbarino. We got another one in the beginning of October for the state Senate, which we need to flip back into Republican hands. So those are the most immediate events. But most importantly, I want to bring up to you is the 108th Annual Gala. If you remember, the guest for this evening was our keynote last year, the 107th Annual Gala, which was at the Yale Club. It was fantastic. Raheem showed up. It was really good, and we were glad to have it. We're going to do it again this year. Our special guest is former vice presidential candidate, former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. It's going to be good. So we have a venue. Tickets are on sale. They're going to be switching over from early bird at the end of the month. So if you're a member, if you're a non-member, get your tickets in before September 30th. It's going to be fantastic. And we're looking for a great event, rain or shine, it's going to happen. Last but not least, membership. Many of you are first-time members, new members. If you're interested in membership, please inquire with myself, with Alana Marcus. We're doing membership. We have deals for students. We have deals for veterans. We have deals for first responders. Whoever it is, we want you to be part of this club because going forward, it's going to be tight on capacity. We just can't do events with non-members most likely going forward. So we're looking for that. And that's about it. So I'm going to be bringing up our vice president who works for Steve on the War Room Pandemic, producer Vishbur. Everyone give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Wish 是 War Room 的制片人。
I want to thank our great president Gavin Wax there for the introduction and for just help for putting this thing together. We all know how hard Gavin works for us to make these things happen for us. So let's give him a round of applause. I want to thank the great board here, Alana, Christy, Jackie, Alex, and Zach, We have a whole bunch of our board members here, a bunch of members here. Thank you all for coming out. I just want to point out how important this election is. In the last 72 hours, we've gotten the news of our lifetimes that all 3 branches of government are going to be on the ticket this year. And we need to make sure that we show up and show out on election day. And that's just the beginning, because it will continue on. This fight does not end election day. That's what we're here to talk about. The plot to steal 2020, what is that about? It's about the theft of our election, the inevitable victory by Donald J. Trump on election night. The Democrats know this. They're going to stop it any way they can. They will take it to the courts. In their official paperwork, they say they're going to take it to the streets. Are we going to put up with that? Are we going to tolerate that? It's not enough for us to show up on election night and vote. We need to give our time, our effort, our limbs, our body and soul to make sure that not only do we get the victory, but we hold the victory and we execute on that victory on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2021, when Donald Trump has his right hand up and ready to take the oath to serve our republic for the next 4 years. We need to make sure we help hold that for him and deliver that for him. Now, the threat is so important and just vital to our understanding that we had to make sure that we went all around the country to tell them that this is what's happening, to tell everyone this is happening. We're doing an event at the Metropolitan Republican Club on Wednesday, with the Young Republican National Federation on Thursday with our esteemed chairman, Rick Lowry. We're going to Texas, we're going to Florida, we're going to Wyoming, we don't care. We're going all across the country to make sure that the word is out. And that this is what's gonna happen. That they will steal it from us unless we do something about it. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce one of our esteemed co-hosts and the editor-in-chief and host of the National Pulse, Raheem Kassan, to lay out the details.
Raheem.
I don't do smatterings. We'll have no smatterings applause. Can I take this off? I'm gonna take this off.
Take it all off.
Take it off. All right. I got my props with me, by the way. Firstly, I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I've spoken here before, and it was kind of a more jovial thing last time, but this is deadly serious. This comes down to what this nation is. And whether or not you think it's legitimate for a Brit to be invested in the idea of the United States, tough like I am, and I'm so glad that all of you are too. You know, it was a couple of months ago now that we first found out about the Transition Integrity Project. And I have in my hand the very first time I printed this document and went through it and highlighted it. This goes with me everywhere now, because this is everything. This is their playbook. This is how they intend to steal this election. And my first question for all of you is, are you going to let them? I want an answer. No. Are you going to let them?
No.
Look, it's just an incredible thing that's happened today as a result of so many people coming together to say, you will not steal this election. Myself and Vish Burra and the whole War Room team, Jack Maxey, Steve Bannon, Natalie Winters over at the National Pulse, we've all been banging on about this, but others have too, and they deserve credit too. Michael Anton from the Claremont Institute, he wrote this incredible piece for the American Mind. It's called The Coming Coup. And today, the founder of one of these coup-oriented organizations tweeted that Michael Anton is the Robert Brasilic of our times and deserves the same fate. Robert Brasilic was executed. That is what these guys are talking about. That is what these guys are calling to happen to our side. A plot against the president is a plot against the people. And a plot against the people is a plot against the constitutional republic. You know, you want to talk about this document. What's in this document? The left always accuses the right of doing away with the norms, right? The norms. How often do you hear that on CNN? Somebody going up there going, oh, this president, he hates the norms, he's against the norms. This document talks about how there can no longer be an election night, talks about how we can no longer expect people to vote in person, and talks about the abolition of the Electoral College. You tell me who's against the norms of an election in this country. I charge them with this. I charge the Transition Integrity Project, Rosa Brooks, Niels Gilman, and all of the groups orientated around it, the McGruin Institute, the Open Society Foundations, and beyond. This is a playbook. And this is their big playbook. This is Ed Foley's book. It's called Ballot Battles. It came out 2 years ago. And by the grace of God, I'm British. And I knew exactly the pitfall with which they wanted to trap you. And that was, I said it 2.5 weeks ago, I said they're going to ask for a bureaucratic electoral commission. An electoral commission. Bureaucrats appointed to a board to decide who fairly wins the election. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Dan Coates in the New York Times comes out and he says, I think America needs an electoral commission. It's all in this book. It's all in Ballot Battles. This is their playbook. And what Vish said, in this document right here, they call for a, quote, street fight. A street fight. They're not even hiding the totalitarian instincts anymore. And we did a little something back in Britain in 2016. You may have heard of it. It's called Brexit.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Come on, if you don't like looking at me, there's still a beautiful view to applaud here. Look, after Brexit, most of you will realize they undertook a full-on lawfare campaign against the largest democratic exercise in British political history. 17.4 million people voted to leave the European Union, and immediately the courts were filled with objections. And you had this woman, Gina Miller, on the BBC every day. They put her up, they say, oh, she's the expert here, and we should hear her arguments, her anti-Brexit arguments out. Why am I talking about Brexit? Not everything's about Brexit, Raheem, except it is. Because they tried this out, this same strategy that they intend to use during and after this presidential election. They tried it in the United Kingdom. And it dragged the Brexit process out to the point where we still have not formally left the European Union, some nearly 5 years later. So this is a fight, as Vish said. That's the second time I said as Vish said. I never thought I'd be there in my life. But as Vish said, look, they are going to drag this fight on and on and on. And I've got some more reporting that we're going to be doing at the National Pulse over the next few days over just what an electoral commission means, how it works, what they did in the United Kingdom, what they're planning to do here in the United States. And that brings us on to our main speaker of the night. You know, I met Steve Bannon back in late 2013. I've got to tell you, from both sides, I don't think it was love at first sight. You know, I sat down across a dinner table at Brown's Hotel in Mayfair in London, and this guy sits opposite me, and he's got this big jacket on, big barber jacket on, his hair's all unkempt, he's staring down at his cell phone, squinting down into his cell phone. He's not even looking at me in the eye, so he's not even paying attention right now. And I'm wearing jeans and like a wool sweater, pullover, and a white shirt, and I just can't connect with this guy. I don't know where he's coming from. He's telling me all about this stuff that was happening in Hollywood and in Wall Street and name-dropping American things that I had no idea about. He's talking about Andrew Breitbart, who I'd only encountered like once before, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to work with this guy. Well, 7 years later, here I am, having chosen to work with that guy almost immediately after he walked me through the whole plan. And I remember, I said to him, what's the game plan, Steve? He said, we're going to take the world over in 5 years. He did it in 3. He's an extraordinary individual. And, you know, Steve has fired me, I think, more times than he's had ex-wives. Now, that's a lot, by the way. But we're still here, we're still together, we're still running the war room every day. It's an absolute pleasure of mine. You know he's under attack from all angles, all sides right now. These political persecutions, they won't stand in the long run, but we have to fight them, and we are fighting them. And as soon as he's ready, I want to welcome to the stage Mr. Stephen K. Bannon.
What an intro.
I have fired you off.
Yeah, that's right.
Not enough.
I want to thank Gavin Wax. I want to thank the club. The last time I saw you guys, I think you gave me your Founders Award. It was absolutely incredible. Thank you very much. And thank you for thinking through the system so we can actually have a gathering today. Look, what we have is a crisis of the elites. Okay? Today, Donald Trump's in Dayton, Ohio. He's talking to deplorables and he's talking about taking on China. He's talking about a striver's economy. He's talking about bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States. And what are the elites doing? I want to quote Hillary Clinton. Under no circumstances, Joe Biden, are you to concede. Under no circumstances are you to concede. They understand they have a crisis. Three things. Remember, the managed decline of the United States by our elites is the reason Donald Trump's president. That's why in mid-August of 16, when I stepped into the campaign, he was down 6, 8, 10, 12 points. But you could tell what his pathway to victory was. Just continue to hammer the elites for betraying American working class and middle class people. If you continue to hammer that, you'll win. And that's what he did for the last, 88 days, relentlessly. They understand now they have a problem. Here's the problem. Number one, they have a totally disorganized and listless campaign, right? Joe Biden shows up to these airports, he's waving to empty tarmacs. They can't even get people out there to see him. Number two is he's not a closer like Hillary Clinton. If you look at the numbers and look at the crosstabs, black males and Hispanics are not buying it anymore. They understand the economic nationalism that President Trump has, the striver's economy, benefits them. It's that low unemployment. It's those wages coming up for high school graduates, for blue collar more than white collar. That's what you're seeing, and they can't close on it. Biden can't close on it. But most importantly, what they've done, and this is where they're panicking, they've put out mass hysteria among their low information voters. We started War Room Pandemic back in mid-January this year. The reason is our knowledge of China. We knew during the Lunar New Year that something was going on. We were told by all our contacts and relationships. The G News and G Media people are here today, Luda and the team. They told us that, hey, there's a SARS outbreak in central China. We immediately said, hey, this is going to be a world historical event, right? And you can argue about, hey, was it overdone? Was it underdone? Are the numbers cooked? Are the real numbers? What should happen? But what the Democrats did consistently with their media partners was mass hysteria. And so now they have a very big problem. None of their people want to come out and vote. Right now, we are going to have an existential crisis of this republic starting late in the evening on the 3rd of November. Okay? We're going to have a blood red fact, and that is Donald Trump is going to win the game day vote. Okay? Everything that they're going to try to do is to try to turn that around. They are going to try to install an illegitimate and unelected administration to run the United States and to take away all the gains we've had with the populism and the economic nationalism of Donald Trump. And they're going to do it three ways. Number one, they're going to do it through lawfare. Okay? Raheem has mentioned briefly, he talked about the Transition Integrity Project. Remember, what these 100 swells didn't call it was the Election Integrity Project. It's the transition. They already know that they're taking Trump out of office, right? The first part is lawfare. And after Raheem and the National Pulse people outed them, they went to the New York Times, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where they've got a war room. You know, Perkins Coie is the law firm. They got the number one guy over there in election law. They've got our guy Eric Holder, Obama's wingman. This is all part of the Obama restoration, right? They got Obama's wingman. They've got former solicitor generals, former U.S. attorneys. They got an attorney general running it. They've already got 200 lawsuits out there. And what they're going to do is, I think there's 10,500 different election units in this country. They're going to have lawsuits everywhere. Everywhere. They're going to go into court they got to turn around a fact. The fact is Donald Trump is going to win the vote that matters. That vote is the vote on November 3rd. They've got to undo that. Number one, they're going to do it through lawfare. Number two, they're going to do it through their street mobs. They already talk about it. Hey, it's the muscle. It's civic disobedience. They've already got people are heading up those teams to say, we will put as many people as we need to in the streets. They say they will put millions of people in the streets, not just in Washington, D.C. to surround the White House, not just in Washington, D.C. to surround the Capitol, but also to all the big cities in the country to show that that's ungovernable, that Donald Trump must be removed from office, right? This is why they have all the stories in Atlantic, by the way, owned by one of the tech oligarchs, Steve Jobs' widow, right? The tech oligarchs own all of these apparatuses now. To get the military to back off, to say Donald Trump, oh, he doesn't like the military. Hey, I've been to Gettysburg with Donald Trump. I was with Donald Trump. He's a student of military history. I've never seen anybody that reveres our veterans, our military history, our traditions more than Donald Trump. Those are bald-faced lies, okay? And they haven't had one person come forward and put their name on it. The number three and the most insidious, and the one that I think this club can help the most with, is the media and the social media. They need digital muscle. They're already talking about they're not going to acclaim Donald Trump the winner on election night. Number one, in Vanity Fair the other day, the campaign of Biden's already meeting with media executives at the big companies to say, you can't call it, right? Fareed Zakaria saying, hey, I think we have election week. Other guys are saying, I think we have election month. They need to go into court to overturn the fact of Donald Trump's election, okay? And what the media is going to do, and they're already leading up to this. You saw where Twitter is now taking down everything. Twitter has got these, who watches the Watchmen? We don't know who the people that check the facts are. You get the President of the United States put something up, they take it down. Fake news. Facts are not correct. Dr. Yan, the brave virologist from Hong Kong, comes out the other day. She goes from zero, starts a Twitter account Monday morning, from 0 to 59,000. And that evening, they take it down. Tucker Carlson has one of his biggest shows, puts it up on Facebook. Literally tens and hundreds of millions of people in China are finally sitting there, hey, this Tucker Carlson guy's brilliant. Look at these questions. Look what he's doing. The thing is ripped down. What do they say? Oh, fake news. Never tell you who the Democratic operatives are. That's who's in back of this. These are left-wing, progressive, Democratic operatives that are never disclosed to the public that do this. Social media, the new oligarchs in Silicon Valley are going to use their ultimate muscle with the mainstream media to basically stop communication for conservatives to have communication, and then to keep pounding and pounding and pounding and putting the pressure on the Murdochs to make sure that Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity are not sitting there saying, hey, Trump's legitimate, Trump won. This is going to be a barrage. They're going to converge on those three forces in the courts constantly, right? Non-stop media, and also in the streets. And this is what you have to understand. They are prepared to strip away any rule of law, anything this republic has stood for, in order to win this. I want to read you something today in New Yorker. I don't know if you guys, anybody see the Jeffrey Toobin article? Have you seen it yet? Get home tonight. I know most of you guys have canceled your subscription to the New Yorker. You got to hear this quote, though. It's a great story. It talks about what's going to happen after the election, about legally what they're doing, and they go back to the 2000 election, right? They talk about Gore right before the Electoral College. He conceded, and they said, "Hey, today's Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party of 2000. We're not as institutionally interested, but we ideologically aligned, right? And we're not going to give up." Here's the quote. "There is zero chance that anybody in the party is going to say, for the good of the country, that we should settle this matter and now give in, and we'll win this in 4 years." No one thinks another 4 years of Trump is survivable. The campaign believes that this is an existential battle. Let me just repeat the last. No one thinks that another 4 years of Trump is survivable. And the campaign believes that this is an existential battle. You have to understand, right now we have a process. Yes, you have to get out the vote. You have to be pushing content on social media. You have to do whatever we have to do to get people, get them registered to October 5th, get them to the polls, particularly in these key states, right? But November 3rd that's the date we win. The key is to hold that victory. You have to take a pledge with every ounce of your being. We will not give in to an illegitimate and unelected progressive left Marxist organization that the Democratic Party and their patrons on Wall Street and in corporate America, in partnership with the Chinese Communist Party, has made this. They admire, go back and look what they're talking about. They admire the model of Xi. They're sitting there going, hey, those guys really do this thing better, right? They handle this pandemic better. This democracy thing's kind of sloppy. It's too shabby. We like what he's doing. We like what he's doing on his companies. We like what he's doing in his economy. We kind of like how he controls the population. They want state capitalism combined with authoritarianism, right? And they're prepared to strip away this republic before high noon on the 20th of January, the year of our Lord 2021. That's the fight. We got another 5 months to go. You are leaders. You're leaders in the most important city in the world, the global capital of the world, New York City. And look at what this has devolved into, right? It's a ghost town. Look what's happened here. This is what, they don't mind it turning into a ghost town as long as they can control it. You guys are the young leaders in this community. Your voice has to be heard. And it's probably not going to have to be heard in New York. You're going to have to make a decision to go to Florida, to go to Ohio, to go to Pennsylvania, to go to Michigan, to go to Arizona, to go to North Carolina. That's where the fight's going to be. I'll tell you who's concerned about this. You know who's concerned? Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg, who in Singapore a year and a half ago invited Wang Qishan at his conference, invited Wang Qishan, right? The biggest devil in China, right? Worse than Xi, the most corrupt. The guy's in charge of the corruption program, just throwing people in jail, a lot of them because they aspire to go to the West, right? He introduces this guy in Singapore as the most important person in world politics. Now, you think Mike Bloomberg's afraid? Look what Mike Bloomberg's done the last 3 weeks. Number one, was it Hawkfish? Hawkfish is the #1 data company kind of in politics. They got nervous when they finally put out the Transition Integrity Project because they had 4 scenarios, okay? If you guys haven't read the report, you got to read the report. 4 scenarios. Biden wins in a landslide, done. Biden barely wins. There's a toss-up like 2000, and Trump barely wins. Those are the 4 scenarios. They realized they missed something. They missed the reality. They've got to socialize this. The reality is that we're winning with over 400 electoral votes on the evening of November 3rd. So what does he do? What does he do? What does he do? By the way, that's going to happen. That's a fact. 69% of their people tell pollsters they don't want to go to the polls, they want to mail it in. Here in New York City, you saw the primaries that Republicans had nothing to do with, the Democrats themselves ran it. 30% of the votes in Brooklyn rejected. 20% of the votes in Manhattan rejected. This is what you're talking about. We're talking about 50, 60, 70, maybe 80 million votes. They'll be counting next June. Or until they overturn Trump's victory. They call it the red mirage. It's a blood red fact of what's going to happen on November 3rd. Bloomberg gets nervous. He gets Hawkfish out there. He says, hey, we got to socialize this thing. Hawkfish goes out and on Axios with Mike Allen, just a random, Axios, Mike Allen, HBO Sunday night. We're going to drive the whole news cycle. What do they say? Oh, Trump could be leading at 11 o'clock on November 3rd by 404 electoral votes in, I think they said 72 hours, but certainly before Thanksgiving. Donald Trump will lose 80% of the votes counted, or 75%, and Biden will win. They will count until they have to win. The safe harbor, I think, is on the 8th of December, where the state delegates, the electors got to be, and then the Electoral College meets on the 14th. Hey, if they don't have the votes through lawfare, if they don't have the votes through going in and suing, if they don't have the votes of screwing up every electoral commission, they will just kick it to the House. They will make sure that the electors are not elected. They will never let Donald Trump win in the Electoral College. They will kick it to the House, to Nancy Pelosi's house. And there you got to go through. It's so confusing what happens, right? Essentially, we think they vote by state delegations. We have 26, they have 23. There's one tie, but that all depends on who Nancy Pelosi seats as the delegations, right? My point, that this is the biggest fight we've ever had. And it's unconventional warfare. This is how big a fight it is. Bloomberg's a smart guy. Don't think, these guys are very smart. Evil, but smart. He gets Hawkfish out there to talk about the scenario with Trump. The real facts. They call it the red mirage, right? And they're the blue shift, right? He's a blood red fact, and they're the blue steel, right? Here's what else Bloomberg does. Do you think it's randomly he just comes up with $100 million for last week? Why does he do it? He does it because he understands on the evening of November 3rd, he cannot have Trump win Florida. That $100 million is a panic move to force that cash into the system right now, to do everything, and I mean everything, to make sure that Trump is not the winner that night, okay? Look, we have got to educate the deplorables, we've got to educate the Trump movement, we've got to educate the American people. The left has forced the country into this situation. And now, I think the biggest argument why we ought to basically have a Supreme Court justice before the session meets is already, you see in Pennsylvania, you see in Michigan, you see 60 Minutes last night. How did 60 Minutes finish last night? With a, oh, you don't have to have a postmark on it. You don't have to have a legible postmark, and for 3 days later, we can count them, they count. Oh yeah, we'll have drop boxes everywhere. Oh yeah, we're going to have all these groups, ballot harvest. They're going to go around to the neighborhoods and get them by the pound or by the pallet, right? And of course, they're doing it in Philadelphia, a city known for the great election law that they have, right? And the enforcement of it. They never mention that. But how do they end that? How did they end the 60-minute piece last night? These are going to go to the Supreme Court. We can't have a 4-4 court because of what they've done. It's their lawfare, it's their 200 suits that are going to force us. We have to have another justice now. We don't have to make apologies for this. This is what they are forcing upon us. All of these things are going to have to go to the Supreme Court. We need a 9-man court, and we need it immediately. The President of the United States tomorrow should put his nominee up. Grassley should have the committee on Thursday. They should work over the weekend. Start arguing on the Senate floor on Monday. Let's have a vote, up or down. And let's have her there by October 1st. This shows you their arrogance. Why are they in this jam? Why are they in this jam in the court? Their arrogance about 16. Why is Merrick Garland not on the Supreme Court? It's not the Republicans, it's Hillary Clinton and her faction. They thought he was too moderate, that Obama put him up as a moderate to get through. She wanted a left-wing progressive. They put no pressure on it. Just wait. After November, I get my first pick, right? Why did Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who I think is an American hero, I love her, I don't agree with her politics, I don't agree with her rulings. She's tough as boot leather. She made a conscious decision not to step away because she knew Hillary would have a more progressive pick. And Hillary, in President Hillary Clinton's first year, she was going to get 2 picks. The Merrick Garland do-over, and Ginsburg. Ginsburg would go through from October to June and then 17 step down. Guess what? The working class and the deplorables had something to say about that, right? That's about the managed decline. Remember, the deplorables completely reversed this. Outspent, what, $2.2 billion to $600 million? It's not about money. It's about getting people excited. Biden's getting no one juiced up, right? He can't hold black males. He can't hold Hispanic males. He can't put on any type of, even an airport gathering, right? There's no heat in his campaign. He can't close. This is Clinton all over again. They're panicked. So with 80 million illegitimate votes, right? They're going to try to steal the election. Now, here's what you guys have to do. You are the tip of the spear. You guys are the vanguard of a new conservative movement, a new populist movement, a new economic nationalist movement. All the chips are on the table. If we lose this, there's no going back, okay? You know what their plan is. Look at Nancy Pelosi. What'd she say the other day? Clinton saying, under no circumstances will you concede, no circumstances where you concede. She says on the judge, we're not going to back up an inch on this vote. Nancy Pelosi says, we got errors in our quiver, we'll impeach Barr, we'll hold a trial for it. This is before they've even won. What do you think they're going to be like after they win? This election, 250 flag officers sent a letter to counter the Woodward lies, to counter the lies in the Atlantic magazine, right? By the way, Woodward owned by another tech oligarch, Bezos. Atlantic owned by a tech oligarch, right? The administration's got to stop playing footsie with these people. We should shut TikTok down today, not give it to Oracle. As good as Larry Ellison is and his team, TikTok's the Chinese Communist Party sucking up all our data and information. It's time to shut it down. It's time to shut down WeChat. We ought to follow Modi. The administration has tried to accommodate the oligarchs in Silicon Valley, and they're the central driving force that's going to lead, if we lose, to our defeat. We can beat the lawfare. We can stop the mobs in the street, right? Or we can man up and match it up. It is the high ground they have is social media. Social media is one of the most powerful weapons the Chinese Communist Party has, and it's the most powerful weapon they have of the oligarchs today. And honestly, we don't have the weapons to fight it. That's why I think the RNC, I think Ronna McDaniel, these people have done a great job. She should go into court tomorrow at the FEC, and she should file numerous suits about collusion of mainstream media and the tech oligarchs right now with the Biden campaign. There should be shareholder suits, there should be class action suits. We've got to use the courts to break these people now. We don't have time for antitrust. We don't have time to make them public utilities. That should all come later, okay? But they should be up in front of the Senate. Josh Hawley ought to call a hearing on Friday and get them up there. And let Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton field strip these guys, right? It's collusion between these media companies and social media and this left-wing agenda. And so that's why it's so important for you. You're the leaders. You've got to get the word out. We're starting a nationwide tour. We're going to be again in New York on Wednesday. We're going to be in Pennsylvania, North Carolina already. Got 3 stops in Pennsylvania. Some I'm going to do in person. Some will do digitally. Right? You're going to have to. If you know anybody out there that wants it, we've got to get this word out. Push out the content every day. There's a lot of content coming up. Byron York's got a great piece. National Pulse every day. War and pandemic, but there's more. Everybody's now starting to talk about it, right? Raheem's got an incredible piece. Michael Anton, who wrote Flight 93, one of our top intellectuals. Look, I've had my disagreements with Michael, but he's a brilliant guy, probably one of our greatest thinkers. He's got a piece out there that lays this all out, the color revolutions and all this, along with Darren Beatty, the really smart guys, Raheem, who have seen this happen in Eastern Europe, who've seen how the national security apparatus works, talking about the color revolutions, about how they bring all these elements together. They've got the guy that's the Berggruen guy, Berggruen, who's in business with the Chinese Communist Party, right? Nick Berggruen, that's a piece of work, right? A lovely guy, a guy you want having decisions over your country. I don't even know, he's a Swiss, isn't he? I don't even know, Berggruen something. I don't even think he's American, right? Dangerous guy. He's got his guys, it's Niels Gilman. Niels Gilman is saying today, I think he's tweeting out, that Michael Anton should be executed. It's not funny though. These guys, that's how they think. They think Anton is a traitor, right? They think Anton is dangerous. And they think Anton needs to be dealt with. Think of your Michael Anton, you don't have security, right? You might laugh it off at first, but then you start thinking, hey, what happens if they actually steal this election? So look, Tom Hayward and these guys, 250 flag officers. And I served under Tom Hayward back in the 80s as a naval officer. A great pilot, a great naval officer, chief of naval operations. These were all flag officers supporting Trump. They started off the letter by saying, this is the most important election in the history of this republic, right? because on the other side of this, we're either going to be the republic that was bequeathed to us or be something radically different. So look, if this group, with your energy and your smarts and your savvy, start to put your shoulder to the wheel, and we can get you guys dispersed out into Florida, in North Carolina, in Arizona, the big six that we got to bring home, right? Or at least 4 of the 6. That's where this election is going to come down to. So look, it's an honor to come back here. You guys, you men and women of this club, I don't think you realize how important you are to the conservative movement, to the Trump movement, and particularly to the country. It's all on the line. So put away the golf clubs, put away the squash rackets. Seriously, put it all away. You've got to focus your entire being on not just delivering the bold red fact of a victory on November 3rd. We've got what, 8 weeks, 9 weeks of pure hell. And they don't care what they have to put us through. But they will consider it a victory if Nancy Pelosi is acting president at high noon on the 20th of January 2021. And that will be a catastrophic defeat for our country. And I got to tell you, we will have ourselves to blame. We know what they're going to do. We now have to stop it in the courts, in the media, and in the streets. And we can do this. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, let's give another round of applause for the great Stephen K. Bannon. All right, I'm going to ask you to stay where you are for momentarily. We're going to get into the back of our venue. We're going to do some photos, professional shots, camera, whatever. Just be civil, act like Republicans. Everything's going to be fine. In the meantime, get some drinks and tip these guys very well. A lot of you are empty-handed. It looks pretty pathetic. So just buy a few gin and tonics and get drinks for our guests as well. Thank you.
好，这班农先生讲话完了啊，现在这个一个 party， 现在是个 party 啊。班农先生在这里啊，这个就是号召这些青年的共和党人去往各个州啊，去监督民主党的大选，让他们不要作弊啊。所以你看看这号召力多大啊！大家看到没有？这号召力多大！所以说，谁说啊，班农先生这个你看看这影响力啊！
Hors d'oeuvres was
Not getting a drink. Please stay inside. I don't know. No, the photo. To take a photo, it's inside.
Gavin, they can be inside with the mask and no drink.
Mask, no drink inside. If you're getting a drink, it's right up over there.
我要帮你摆，
啊，
我要帮你摆。有直播吗？
直播在直播啊！
我给你。
夏天啊，这是他那个年轻共和党人聚会，是吧？全都是共和党精英，是吧？你刚才听了没有？
听了。
给大家说一下，班农先生
啊，刚才班农我进来的时候，班农说了一句话，我觉得眼睛一亮，马上就醒了。
说啥？
他说这个大家就美国现在啊，面临这个最大的一个威胁是中国共产党。其中这个王岐山是中国最邪恶的人，他比习近平还坏。当时我一听这句话，
对，
就醒了。然后他还说了很多这个，你知道吧？就是讲的那硅谷还有其他的这个，比如金融大佬那些寡头，对吧？对美国的控制，他认为这个，今年11月份的这个选举啊，是决定美国命运这近几十年来最 重要的一次选举啊，要不然的话就跟真的像这个川普啊和其他共和党的这个党魁啊说的这样，就是说，如果这个，但是我们涉及到美国政治了，我跟你讲。
没事没事，说吧。
对，要不然就共产党，如果这个民主党赢的话，那肯定就是共产党就完全占有美国了，就 own 了嘛，就是说完全就是控制美国了，因为这个民主党绝对是跟这个中共是。主张跟中共的这个勾兑嘛，是吧？合作的，对吧？对。他不是一个这个，这种他没有意识到共产党的这种邪恶呀，没有共。
好的，我们去采访，跟那魏雪，找魏雪去做个采访，好不好？魏雪，来过来。
We're gonna get these people out.
Wish.
Whatever you want. We'll make it work.
Okay, so okay.
You guys
Steve
give
said
us
he wants
time?
St. Patrick.
Okay, whatever you guys want, we'll make it work for your time.
Fine.
Okay.
这，魏雪在那里啊。
That side is gonna be cleared and we'll turn the lights on. You guys have better lighting? Good? Okay.
You negotiate, you get them on, how many times it's gonna be.
来。
Wait a second. We're starting soon. As soon as he's done, just be ready, all right? Don't be. What? All right, well, someone else.
来过，你跟他说。Hi, Wish. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, we are live.
Oh, you guys are live. Welcome.
Yes. 我们带个中国观众过来。
Right now, you are facing millions of our Chinese audiences. Right
Oh, excellent.
now. You want to see something?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us on our live stream. It is imperatively important that Steve Bannon and everybody here who showed up to the event today help to make sure that we secure the victory for Donald J. Trump in 2020 so that we can then continue to work to take down the CCP and free the Chinese people, the Lao Beijing. We are there for you. The Chinese deplorables are the American deplorables. We are here, and it starts with making sure Donald J. Trump wins. Thank you all for joining us on this special message.
Thank you,
他说什么？解释一下，翻译一下。翻译一下，就这样。
这样就可以了是吧？
对。
这个为大概就是随便解释一下，就是说他是跟这个我们的中国观众打招呼嘛，说这个就是他就表达了这个他对这个中国老百姓的支持嘛，一定要干掉共产党，同时呢要求我们的这个美国的这个中国的观众啊，一定要记得选 Donald Trump 是吧？这样的话就是说他跟那个这个总统呢跟这个我们这个班农这个。说的理念是一样，都是为了这个平民主义，都是为了这个老百姓嘛，都是为了最贫苦的人啊。这个川普也是为了这些最底层人的利益啊而奋斗的，是吧
Guys, sorry. Inside either a mask.
Okay.
Take down CCP.
Take down CCP. 对。
So I don't have a problem. You can stay inside, but if you want to get in line for the photos, it's forming in there.
大家过不过瘾
You
啊
can also get a drink. Whatever you want to do. I don't want to be the bad guy. Just have to do it. Sorry, my bad.
？Sorry.
Can I just fish one thing? Wearing some of the real American, you know?
大会没有 security
有啊，楼下有。
有吗？
对。
对，这些都是那种，就是共和党，你知道，都是那种，应该99%都是白人。
对，他是老百姓啊。
都是白人。
对。
都是白人里面的这种精英吧，算是精英啊，这比较应该是保守派的啊，都是保守。
对，他肯定共和党肯定保守派多，是吧？
对。
因为他这个会主要是发动大家行动，大家行动啊。
对，因为这个年轻的这个共和党人，他们就是实际上是未来的共和党的中坚力量，对吧？他们在这次这个，因为你想这个年轻的这个他们的这个党员啊，是吧？是最擅长使用社交媒体的。所以说这个班农刚才演讲的时候就特别提到这个非常必要，美国政府拿掉这个抖音啊，对吧 ？WeChat 对吧？因为他对这个美国的这个渗透啊和政治选举的干扰特别大，
对，
特别大，尤其是影响这个华人选民的影响特别大。
刚才专门说到 严博士的推特被封，
对，
他个秀被Facebook 审查，
对，
知道吧？
对，就是这些 big tech 都跟那共产党勾兑嘛，
对，
都替
它里面
共产党审。
专门还说的这个布伦伯格跟王岐山的关系，
对，
是吧？
对，
还专门说到这个中共控制美国的社交媒体。
对，川普班农的话就是一贯的采访一下拉希姆啊，拉希姆来了吗？
拉希姆来了，
拉希姆，
别，我们采访拉希姆了，那些都是老面孔，咱们采访一个这个也是新面孔，好不好？
采访谁呢？随便你选一个，我就跟他套近乎吧。你选一个吧，哪个比较像大牌？这个老头，对面这个老头。
啊，可以
啊，可以吗？
可以。你说我们正在直播，你说这个面向中国人的直播啊。
我们这样说，我们就是说我们是路德 media， 我们是100% support Donald Trump。啊。We also Bannon's friends. Okay. Do you want to join our live broadcast?
不是，你就问他关于这个班农现在刚才演讲里讲讲这 CCP 啊，这中共啊，这个控制美国的社交媒体，他什么？好不好？关于控制这个 dog 的盐的这个推特账号被封，问他知不知道这事，好不好？这个你说，这个你说，你去，你过去。去啊！
好，你不要叫。
Hi,
good evening. So,
it's live.
路德 yes,路德 media.
I don't.
You know the live?
I work with.
Okay.
And I've been doing some work with Dr. Yan, so I've heard. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
So even we don't put your face in the live broadcast, do you want to interview?
No.
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 Okay. It's okay.
他什么？他认识我？
对，他跟那个大高野还 work 过。
啊？
他跟大高野还 work 过。
哦，我知道。
可能是我们的对。
对啊。
他认识你，可以路德可以啊。现在随便找一个白人女士都认识。
不，再找那个。
No joke. Hey, no, I
随机采访啊！随机采访。找谁？找个。
跟这个站他们。
这个，对，这个看着啊。
跟他聊吗？
对，可以。好，这个你去，你过去先用英语跟他说一下。
Luda Media, we are also Luda Media. So we are 100% Chinese Donald Trump supporter. So we are doing live broadcast.
Is this filming me?
Yes. Do you feel comfortable? Or?
Okay.
Yeah?
Well, I'm not going to answer any questions. Yeah.
We just want to ask a simple question. How do you like? Yes.
你好.
What's your name, sir?
Neil McCain.
Neil McCain. Nice to meet you, sir. So we simply just want to ask you, how do you like Mr. Bannon's speech about the CCP really take down CCP and CCP really take control all the biotech, including Twitter, those Facebook, really start to censor for the Chinese Communist Party in the United States. So how do you think of that?
I think that Stephen K. Bannon is the most brilliant public intellectual operating in American politics today. His understanding of not only politics but the forces involved in politics, specifically, the rise of social media and the rise of China, things that were really not a problem, say, 20 years ago. I think a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans are still stuck in sort of this Reagan model, and it's been 40 years since Reagan was elected, and those Reagan was fantastic. Reagan was a god. He was a legend.
Yes.
But that was 40 years ago, and the Democrats were beaten then, but they've learned. They've mutated like a virus, if you will.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
那怎么看那个Dr. Yan的账号、推特账被封
Yeah, have you heard about like a Chinese virologist who
Dr. Yan.
fled Hong Kong to the U.S. In April, right?
Dr. Yan?
Yeah, Dr. Yan, and his Twitter just 2 days later was totally like shut down by Twitter because she's trying to send the truth of the virus to the whole world. And now her Twitter account only survived for 2 days. How do you think of that?
You know, I'm not a virologist. I do have 8 credits in college biography, college biology from George Mason University in Virginia. So with my 8 credits in college biology, I'm not really qualified to weigh in. But I think the idea that you would shut down any information, that you would dismiss any information is absurd. We know nothing about what's going on. We know nothing about a germ that has shut down the U.S. economy, the world economy, that has closed hundreds of thousands of businesses. Millions of Americans are out of work. And if somebody has an idea about what happened, well, let's hear them out. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. I don't know, but you know, let's have a marketplace of ideas. I'm just really curious about what happened and how did this, you know, how did this happen? Where I don't feel like I'm living in a country that's being attacked by a pandemic right now. You know, it's like, you know, I know that people are dying, but it's like I don't know. I'd be really curious to see if more people died this year than last year. Like, where are the extra deaths? I don't know. I think that it's really difficult to have a debate when debate is shut down. I just don't. I don't know. I think, like a lot of people, we have no choice but to trust the officials who are there to look out for us. But you know, I don't know if I'm not sure if I trust them. I don't know why they shut down my church, but I could go to Target. Like, you know, it's like I could go to
contradicts, right? So a lot, yeah.
You know, it's like my favorite restaurant was closed, but I could go to Walmart. I don't know. Like, I'm not a scientist, but so I guess.
I see. That's a very honest answer, at least, yes. By the way, your credits in biology, I think, speaks a lot of the truth. At least you understand the biology, right? It's not easy to get
credits. My 8 credits in college biology includes 2 labs. Okay. And my professor went to Cambridge University. So it's very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.
他认为这个就是美国社会无论这个，因为现在目前对这个病毒了解甚少嘛哈，你这个大众媒体现在还不了解病毒真相的时候，就无缘无故的就刷当这个Dr. Yan的这个 Twitter， 很明显就是有点什么，就是慌不择路那种感觉，你不觉得吗？对吧？
对，
是吧？啊。那理论上，美国这个社会应该是容忍多种声音、多种观点，对吧？
对，
这绝对是共产党。
好，我们今天就差不多了吧？
可以，好，
那就这样，大家好，我们今天这里现场就到这里啊，现场，thank you，现场就到这里啊，再见。